Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Remote Producer Show, where today we're going to be tackling how you can build a production portfolio and style that you can build as the foundation for a real career. Stick around. Drop a quick comment if you're hanging here on the live. If you're hanging here on the replay, please do the same and still let us know that you're rocking and rolling. Would love to see who's joining this adventure week after week and see who's lighting up the room. So jump in the chat if you are hanging here with us today. Would love to see who's in the mix. Let me fire it up. Simon, straight out the gates. Welcome to the party, brother. Good to see you over here. Today, we are tackling a special subject of how, if you want to become a producer, like Juma is here in the room. Welcome, brother. We're going to be tackling the foundational steps for you to get started on that journey. So big thank you to everybody hopping in here. Oh, I love it so much. Nick, Joshua, Maria, Jackie, Guy. Yo, the party is here. What is up, y'all? Thank you so much for joining. Appreciate y'all. We are going to be tuning into the episode in just a second. What a crew. Pana, welcome to the party. Anybody over on YouTube? I see some lurkers over on YouTube. Jump in the comments real quick. We are about to fire up the show. And today we're talking about production portfolios. In order to earn business and pursue this as a career, you need to first establish a production portfolio and style. So that's what we're going to be talking about today as we get fired up. Thank you to everybody that's hanging out here in the room. Already can feel the love and positive vibes. So I'm trying to keep these as short and as concise as possible. So let's get straight into it. And if you have any questions throughout the journey, please jump in the chat, share your questions, your experiences, and everything throughout. This is a journey that we are on together, becoming a remote producer. Let's get it. So here's what's incoming today. We are going to be talking about the best habits and advice for you to instill into your day-to-day productions and operations. Then we'll be going into a way for you to establish your style as a producer. This is going to be a valuable way to stand out and actually build demand for you specifically and not just any service. And then lastly, how we can use those first two pieces and build a production package that you can offer as a clear service. And I know all of this works because I've quite literally built my new career and life around this advice that I'm going to be sharing today. So anybody that's curious about starting or continuing your journey as a producer will find extreme amount of value if you can instill all of these learnings that we're talking about today. So stay all the way to the end and feel free to jump into the chat if you have any specific questions or advice for others here. We're all in this together. So let's get it rolling here in this first section of habits and advice. So the way this show works is we're going to go into the big picture stuff first, the meta, and then right after we'll go directly into the micro. So thank you to everybody joining. Krista, Robert, Jackie, see you all rocking and rolling. Thank you so much. We're talking about how to get started and the best advice. So this is what you need to think of on the highest level is how can you set systems and habits that encourage constant innovation. If you can constantly be innovating and be on the forefront of these productions, you will be in demand as as a producer, whether it's on site or what we've been discovering, a remote producer is super valuable. And the number one question that you need to be continuously answering is, how can you provide the best experience possible? If you, as a producer, can instill these habits into your world, you will consistently be getting better and consistently filling an ongoing demand. So think of these two things consistently on the macro level. How can you set habits and systems to innovate? And then when it comes to your day-to-day productions, how can you provide the best experience possible? And that's what really will set the foundation for the right mindset of becoming a producer. So thank you to everybody jumping in a little bit late. Majida, I see you rocking and rolling. Going to keep these as concise as possible, but please do stay engaged and join the chat throughout here. Welcome to the party, Garen, as well. So we're in the micro level of habits and advice. And here is my number one tip to start with. Use your personal streaming platform to innovate. Use essentially a test channel. It doesn't have to publicly be called a test channel, but you need some type of streaming platform that you continually can experiment and innovate, but it's not for clients. Don't do that for a client show or something that you need to be very professional and done well. This is for the exact opposite purpose. You need to have a safe space to test the waters and try stuff and break stuff. Like, you want stuff to go wrong in this experimentation. So that's going to be tip number one, is use your personal streaming platform or some type of owned platform as an innovation tool, and always be testing. Test 1 2, test 1 2. Nick knows what's up. He knows all of the dilemmas and hurdles that streaming can crack open. So the more you can get comfortable with all of this technology and the tools in front of camera, behind the camera, is gonna arm you as a producer to build better shows. So think of that consistently, of how you can use a personal platform to innovate. Then, number two, systemize everything. Systemize everything you can, and always be thinking with deep empathy. Everything you're designing, from the layout, what shows up on screen, when you go full screen, like in a moment like this, think of every single piece of the production that you can optimize, and always invert the equation from what the client or the viewer needs to have. It's very easy to get distracted by all the fun stuff and creative stuff that you as an individual want to do. But what's going to be far more important is tapping into this designing experiences with deep empathy. And if you can adopt this mindset, you are going to be in a super, super good spot. That's number two. Now, the last one here, number three, is shifting your perspective on technology. Think of all of this technology that we're using as a tool. It is simply a tool that you are given. When an artist is given a brush, there's no one specific purpose for that. You can use that in so many different ways. And that's the mentality that I want you to adopt as a producer. Is this technology that we're tapping into is simply a tool to create what needs to come to life. So it's not a burden. It's not something you have to do and have to learn to figure it out in order to go online. Think of it the opposite way. It's another tool in your palette that you can creatively expand upon. So that's going to be super practical advice for you to become a better producer and not have the exact same stuff over and over and over. These are going to be big wins for your habits and your day-to-day mindsets. So let's keep it rolling here. into the next section, which is your style. If you want to become a pro producer and actually do this for clients and earn revenue, you have to have some type of reason that you're different than everybody else. And this is where your production style starts to come into play. So the meta of this is understanding a style that can be recognized and repeated, and then building a rhythm in your processes. A rhythm in your processes will make all of this come together and start operating. I use the analogy a machine all the time. This is very much a machine that all the pieces need to be operating in order, and there's a rhythm, and there's fuel and input and output. That's what I think about. And for me, the biggest success was when I finally got a consistent rhythm in the production process. So these are going to be big wins for you to do this in a more sustainable way, as well as a scalable way. For those of you that are wanting to do this as a business opportunity, obviously at some point you need to be able to scale and do it for multiple clients. And if you have a rhythm in your process, boom. And then ultimately expanding your portfolio. Like everything else, you gotta diversify your portfolio. That's not just for investors. The wider you can expand your portfolio and learn different types of shows, different setups, from a single person talk show to a multi-guest ensemble talk show, it's going to be a completely different experience. So think of how you can utilize those in a more diverse way, and that will bring more opportunities to your table. So you guys can see how this is connecting to the prior advice of using your own streaming platform. So use your own streaming platform to experiment and innovate, and with that innovation, you can build a more diverse portfolio. So hopefully you guys are seeing the dots connect here. Appreciate everybody jumping in here. Peter, welcome to the party. Maria, thanks for hopping in the comments. This has been amazing. Peter, I'll get to your questions. I'm going to try and batch them all at the end here, but let's keep it rolling. We're talking about establishing your style. We went into the high level value and purpose of why you need to do that. And now we're going to get into the very specific ways to do that. And number one is with audio visual style. As you guys can probably tell, the more frequent you step into my streams, this is something that I've been focusing on. How can you use audio and visuals to build a world? And the techniques that you use will essentially start becoming your style. So think of graphics, overlays. The stuff that we have here was all intentionally made. So I can turn off this overlay here. Would be a little bit more plain Jane, but you can tell that this is a tiny little detail in audio visual style. So you have overlay graphics that are static. You can use overlay graphics that are animated. And then you have background layers as well, whether that's background motion or just static backgrounds. These are a simple way, especially with Restream Studio, that you can build a world that looks entirely different than other people's. So invest into audio visual style and do what works for you, or on behalf of a client. Obviously, you want to build it to fit their brand, their specific world, their client, their target audience. So consider those. Audio visual style, lesson number one. Then number two, the show segments and production concepts. This is a creative way that you can really expand the horizons. What I think a lot of people do is the safe choice. As a producer, it's easy to just do what everybody else is doing. And I encourage you, please, please, please don't just do what everybody else is doing simply for the sake of it. If there's a purpose and there's value in that, of course, go for it. But what is more important is to develop creative styles and ways for clients to stand out. Ultimately, this is all leading back to content and media-based marketing. If you're doing this professionally as a producer, you have to consider how you can build a unique show for the client. And this is a super special, simple way to do so, is with a segment or a creative show concept that has never existed before. Or you can use an existing concept and switch it up just a little. This is very brilliant for any type of B2B show that needs to have a way to stand out. All of this is about attention. So I see brilliant people hopping in here. Eddie over on Facebook, thanks for joining, brother. Nick hopping in here with some more insights. Please jump in the chat if you've been hanging with us today. Would love to see who's here in the mix. But let's get back to the goods. We're talking about show segments and production concepts. So this could be anything from a talk show, a game show, trivia, activities, so many things. We might as well put a. I do have prior things with book of choices here, but ultimately, just think about how you can use show segments and entirely new production concepts. This will be a huge win, not only for your portfolio, but for when people need to reach out and say, who's running this? Who's running this show? You're going to be the first one, top of the list, if they want a show exactly like that. So think of those moments that you can do to create something new. And then the last one here is specifying your style by industry or niche, which coincidentally, Cargo Margot just jumped in here. Welcome to the party. She is a brilliant example of an industry or a niche that you can zero in on. So she's in transportation and logistics. Something you wouldn't expect to be very media and content friendly, but she's rocking it. So that in itself can be a style for the stream itself or for you as a producer. If you wanted to just produce live streams and shows for cybersecurity professionals, you literally could have an entire career in just that. So establish your style in creative ways with audiovisual assets, show segments, and creative concepts that don't exist. Or the last option we just tapped into here is by industry or niche. With that, you can establish a recognizable style as a producer and then take that with you to continually build on. So let's keep it rolling here. We're jumping into the last section here. So I want you to think of the final destination here is selling and converting. Many of you here that want to become a remote producer, you got to have a client, you got to have business somewhere, somehow. And this was by far the biggest game changer in my world. I used to come from marketing agency side, where we would help anybody with anything at any time in any industry with any service. And that's great in some contexts. But if you're serious about building a clear offer and doing this as a career or a side hustle, you need to have some type of clear production package. And this is how I want you to think of it. You need to build a package that fills a market demand while catering to your skill sets. Let me drop that again. Fill a market demand while catering to your specific skill sets. I promise you, if you think of this in a creative way, there is a special angle or a special approach that you can add to the live stream game as a producer, or even in the podcast world. You can add your own creative flair based on your interest, skills, and experiences. So how this worked out for me was combining a lot of stuff that I learned from music production. Once upon a time, I did the musical thing as a solo artist, but I learned a ton about audio engineering, about concept albums, how you can use audio to build a world and tell a story. So those pieces come into my production style in a really useful way. And I guarantee you have skills or experiences that translate well into this that you can integrate into a package. So for me, this is what I used. I was able to combine branding and strategy, which is what I learned from the creative director role, with post-production. Also another valuable piece. Once the show is done, it needs to be sliced and diced and repurposed, all of that stuff in a useful way. So I've integrated that. And then really the last piece here that is the biggest headache of production is the administration and management. So once we integrated all of these pieces into a single package, it creates a unified, where the talent just has to show up. Everything else is done. They show up for an hour a week and everything is handled. So for me specifically, that was what was complementary to my skill set, was to integrate branding, post-production, and social management and administration all together into one. And then was able to tap into brilliant resources to fill those roles. But I guarantee some of the clients that I've landed would not be interested if there weren't other valuable pieces attached to it. So think about how you can integrate that in an effective and efficient way. And yeah, I can't do it for you, but I guarantee there's some type of skill or expertise that you can integrate into these productions. And that's what really glued it all together for me. So thinking of this in a holistic perspective, you have to start somewhere. So the first step is just start. Anywhere at all. There's a link to Restream here in the description. If you've never tried it before, sign up, make your account now, just to see how simple the software is. Just to see how simple it is. You don't have to do anything professional or public. Just start seeing how easy it is to get guests in and out of there, to switch cameras, to add all this fancy overlay stuff. They've really made it brilliant. That's going to be your first step. And then you start testing your own shows, your own productions, your own streams. That's where you can get used to the tech and what you can do. And then if you're really serious about building your portfolio, this is something that some people might disagree with, but I worked for free for almost an entire year straight. I was doing live stream productions for other people. And thankfully, I was strategic about whom I did those free productions for. And I was able to tap into high-end LinkedIn influencers that didn't understand live streaming, and I offered to run their show for free. And that gave me the foundation and the credibility and the authority to start doing that. And hey, bonus points. I also upgraded the free clients to paid clients eventually. So there is a good strategy there in establishing a portfolio for individuals and then extrapolating it later into an official offering or service in that context. So that was a big win for me, was experimenting internally, doing stuff for free, and then doing stuff for paid clients. And now I've never lost that original bottom foundation. I'm still always testing and experimenting over and over. And many of the people here might actually be part of those. I see D Money in the building. Pana's still hanging out. Margot, thank you so much. But you guys have actually been a part of my experimental streams. So I still have Friday personal streams that I use essentially as an experimental palette. And it's been great to level up, push the limits of streaming productions. What can we do with this medium and this technology? And then I can offer that as client services. So that's the rotation that you need to be thinking of, is how can you consistently innovate on the personal level, provide value for clients, and then build that into a professional production package. That's what it's all about. That's what's worked for me. And I guarantee that you can do the same. So let's wrap this bad boy up. I might actually hit the 30-minute mark today. We might actually hit the 30-minute mark. We'll see how far the Q&A sends us off course, but this is glorious. So what we've talked about today is step one is building habits and systems that enable innovation. Habits and systems that enable innovation. Think of that and you will start becoming a super producer in your own right if you have the right mindset. Then part two, using that innovation and that experimenting to start developing a specific style for your productions of what you like doing, what you don't like doing, what you're good at, what you're not so good at. And that will start to give you your own stream style, the same way musicians start to find their style over the years. And then lastly, translating this all to practical value. Ultimately, if you want to do this as a career, as a side hustle, and you just want to make any type of revenue from this, you have to be filling a demand. It can't just be for fun or because you think it's cool or creative. You have to work backwards from what is a specific market demand that I can fill with this technology or with this service. And in many cases, it is about content and attention. Companies of all kinds are in a war, an absolute war for attention. So if you have a production package that enables people to garner and cultivate community and attention on a recurring basis, that's going to be a big win. And you can get hyper niche. This is where virtual events start to crack open as another market demand right now that we're keeping an eye on. So that's the glue that brings it all together, is once you've experimented, innovated, established a style, the last piece is piecing it all together to fill a specific demand with clarity. And bada boom, bada bing, that is technically the end of this show. So please do jump in the comments here if you have a question. I'm going to start scrolling through the comments if you guys want to sneak them in here. But hopefully you can see with these three pieces and these three steps that you can build a foundation that you'll continuously be growing and innovating just personally and professionally. And then on the client side, you're consistently building a portfolio or exemplifying the value of how this can come together. So that's really what this is all about. And for me specifically, anybody that's been a part of this journey, I discovered Restream middle of last year, and it was a massive pivot point for me to finally learn and understand the epitome of like what we can actually do with this technology. So big thank you to Restream for supporting my journey. If you're curious about starting your own journey, heavily encourage you to join them in this context. So let me get to Peter here. Peter has been just rocking and rolling over on Facebook. Thanks for joining us today, man. Let me tap into what are some new features Restreams are working on over the coming months. Look at this, going deep. So very recently, a very powerful feature just came out. Restream pairs. Restream pairs is just the name of the feature. And what this does is it enables users to sync this stream to guests or other partner channels. So typically all I could do was stream here and to any channels I own and I'm connected to, which is great, brilliant to be able to go out to a bunch of platforms. But what's even better is if you're able to tap into, say I had a special guest, Guy Kawasaki, he was on one of the Restream shows. If I had a guest like Guy Kawasaki, he has an audience of his own that he could share that same stream, that same show with. And what Restream Pairs has enabled is now I can go live on my platform, share the link with Guy or any guest, and they can air that same program on their channels. So anybody that understands like the podcast theory and media theory, a big portion of the value of having a big guest is their audience, understanding they have their own community of people to tap into. And Restream Pairs is a super brilliant way to not only leverage your own growth in your own community, but to tap into airing that stream directly on another person's channel, which is amazing. So I'm excited about that. They are talking about a Restream Pro version right now. The stuff that they have available is fairly simple, but for good reason. So they are going to be releasing Pro features, and I don't know what else is on the pipeline, but they are very reactive to developer requests and needs. So if you're open about your feedback with Restream, it's very likely you'll see your feature or whatever you're reporting addressed within months. They're very quick in the development cycle. So here we go. Yes, Chris is asking about the pair feature. Yes, they do have to actually have live stream access on the channel they're trying to sync up. So, does Restream eliminate lots of this? Well, these aren't planted questions, by the way. These are just, you guys are just genuinely curious, I guess. Eliminate the party for third-party production software like OBS. I am in between both worlds. So I've been running all of these shows 100% on Restream Studio, which is the very simple version of these. I've been experimenting with OBS streams and very much more like advanced complex streams, but still utilize Restream to go to all platforms. So there's this hybrid middle ground of, so the short answer is yes, you don't need any of the fancy software if you don't need it. You can run a super pro show. I ran Shay Rowbottom's show 100% all through these Restream Studio things. So you don't need the fancy software, but the asterisk there is even when you do use the fancy software, like I use OBS for this musical nightclub stream that I've been doing, I still plug that into Restream, and it gets even more crazier. I also pool the comments from Restream and feed them back into OBS. So there's a whole episode of how to set that up one day. But in short, no, you don't need to do any of the advanced stuff. And that's really it's one size fits all. So that's been my option. If you need super simple, Restream Studio. Super advanced, go OBS or whatever you choose. And then I still plug it back into Restream anyways so that I can get on all platforms. So, lordy, y'all have a popular recurring demand here regarding Restream again. Could you talk about the difference between personal, standard, and professional? Which one would you recommended for getting started? You can actually start on the free plan if you're okay with I think it has the watermarks. That's what I would at least suggest to start. Just make the account and get a few streams under your belt. And then once you have a branded show, once you have a name for the show and a logo and a concept, and you're like, all right, we're doing this, that's when I would say upgrade to the standard or pro. And then that way you can utilize the full suite of features. But the free and the personal are super, super solid options just to learn and get started. And then as soon as you're ready to bump up, jump to the standard or professional, and that will give you pretty much everything you need without super, super advanced features. So that would be my recommendation. Thank you for asking. I knew the Q&A was going to throw it over. Well past the 30-minute mark. But I think I'm just scrolling through the comments here real quick. If last chance, last call for any comments that are coming through, because we are about to wrap it up here. This was a brilliant episode. What we talked about today was the most critical pieces to establish your stream style. And in that conversation, we talked about habits and systems that enable innovation. You need to have those in place. Then using that experimentation and innovation to develop your style. And then with those two pieces, building a production package, a useful production package that fills a specific demand, for whether that's for a specific industry, a specific service. That's what's going to be your most realistic route to turn this into a viable career or side hustle that actually earns revenue. So that is technically the end of the line, folks. I hope you had a brilliant episode. I have a blast every week coming here, sharing my insights. I'm admittedly just figuring this out a couple months ahead of y'all, so I'm appreciative of everybody joining the journey, and hope you have a brilliant, brilliant day. And as always, big thank you to Restream for supporting my journey, and anybody that's interested in starting their journey, sign up, start using Restream, give it a test run, and anything you need throughout that journey, feel free to reach out to me individually or anybody in our community. We're all learning this and figuring it out together. So appreciate your support, and we will catch you next week. Thank you so much. Take care.